Sure, thank you.
Okay, because now we're on live, so we're a little late. We're very late. Okay, so to try to pack this in a shorter time, it's a very, very beautiful class of the Rebbe on the Parsha of the week, which is really connected to, the Rebbe connects it to, everything that's going on, and to the way it connects to our day-to-day life, as all the Rebbe's classes are, the Rebbe's teachings on the portion of the week. So this is the question that is asked: is Judaism a religious or a national project? And we're not saying to please mute himself because I hear your background noise. So if you can mute yourself, it would be a big mitzvah, unless you want to ask a question. Okay, so we start this class. If you have the book, it's on page number 65, right? That's the first text. Text number 1 is page 65. So in this week's Parhsa Trumah, we're given the commandment, the unbelievable commandment, which is a universal, forever commandment in the Torah, and that is on verse number 8, chapter 25, verse number 8, with the commandment to every Jew throughout history, from beginning of time, is va'asu li migdash v'shachanti b'seicham. You shall make for me a sanctuary, and I will dwell in their midst. A commandment for every Jew throughout history, throughout time. Started off at the desert. God asked every Jew to make for him Migdash, make for me a sanctuary, and I'll dwell in your midst. And the Torah continues, whatever I show you, the pattern of this Mishkan, the tavnis kol kelav, and the pattern of all its vessels, and so shall you do. Now, the truth is that the Mishkan, even though it was a beautiful building made out of gold, but it was a transient building. It was a structure that was easily taken apart and put together, and it traveled the Jews in the desert for 40 years. And sometimes it was put together in the morning and taken apart at night. Sometimes it lasted. The Mishkan stood in the place for 18 years. They made 42 journeys from the time that they built this Mishkan until they ultimately came to the land of Eretz Yisrael. So this was a movable building, which had a roof that was made out of was not a roof that was a structure that stood there forever, right? It was made out of tapestry. 3 different covers, as a Torah we learned this week in the Parsha. So this was a transient Mishkan. Truth is, the Jews came into the land of Eretz Yisrael. That was when they were obligated to build a Beis HaMikdash. They were obligated to build this and not take it from a transient situation to an eternal temple on the Temple Mount. Therefore, in text number 2a, we come to the commandment. The real commandment was God really wanted that this Mishkan shouldn't last for 40 years even, right? God wanted the Jews should go into the land of Israel ASAP. So even when this Mishkan was asked to be built, it was not officially there. It was not in the plans to be for 40 years. The plans was that we're going to get into Israel in a very short time. Ultimately, it was with the Jews for 40 years. God really wanted v'asali migdash. That's the verse, v'asali migdash. I want you to make for me a building. I'm not interested in a movable situation. I want a building. Everybody wants building. I want a building. It was no problem. It was a big fundraiser. It was a successful fundraiser. That more than they needed. God wanted a migdash. He wanted a stable building that would last for hundreds and would last forever. That's what God wanted. This was a Mishkan. This was a tabernacle. Mishkan. We mixed between the Mishkan and the Mikdash, but God wanted Asli Mikdash. I want you to make me a Mikdash, a tabernacle, not a tabernacle. I want you to make me a house. Therefore, in text number 2, the Gemara says, it is taught in the Parhsa. Rabbi Yossi says, famous Rabbi Yossi of last week, 3 mitzvahs are commanded to the Jewish people upon their entrance to Eretz Yisrael. 3 mitzvahs they needed to accomplish: to establish a king, to destroy the offsprings of Amalek, and to build a temple. Amalek was the Amalekites in the Torah. I don't know who they are exactly today. So the Amalekites in the Torah, we read it 2 weeks ago in the Torah reading of Bashalach, that there was a nation Amalek who came out against the Jews in the desert, and God said, you need to destroy this nation, the nation of Amalek. Ultimately, God said that they need to destroy the 7 nations that were in that were the 7 nations that lived, one part of the 31 nations that lived in Israel. There were 7 nations that God said you need to destroy, part of the Amalek dynasty. So, yes, grandchild of Esau was Amalek, correct. The Talmud says, I do not know which one of these 3 mitzvahs they are obligated to do first. The verse states, the hand upon the throne of the Lord. God will have the war with Amalek. This says that establish a king comes first. The verse states, then King Solomon sat on the throne of the Lord as king. I don't know whether the building of the temple comes first or destroying the offsprings of Amalek. When the verse says, and he will give you rest from all your enemies, then it shall come to pass that the place of the Lord your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. You must say that the destroying of the offspring of Amalek comes first. So what is first? It sounds like, in one verse, it sounds like a king comes first. In another verse, it sounds like destruction of Amalek comes first. Indeed, the verse states concerning David, and it came to pass that when the king dwelt in his house and God gave him rest from his enemies, and then it states, and the king said unto the Nathan the prophet, see, now I dwell in the house of the cedar, but the ark of the God dwells within curtains. So it sounds like that ultimately, what comes first was the destruction of Amalek, and the having a king, and then building a Mishkan, building a Beis HaMikdash. That's what ultimately happened. Text number 3a. Text number 3a, Vayihi, and it came to pass when the king dwelt in his house, King David dwelt in his house, and God had given him the rest from all his enemies. King David was ultimately the king who got rid of all the enemies of Israel from the land of Israel, cleaned out the country, and God says, now he calls, and the king said unto Nathan the prophet, see, now I dwell in the house of cedar, but the ark of God dwells within the curtain. So King David, if he cleans up the whole place, he says, okay, now I want to build a Beis HaMikdash. I want to build a temple. What does God say? God says through Nasan Hanavi, no, you're not gonna do it. And that's text 8. Text 3b, which is text, which is in Shmuel in the book of Samuel, text chapter 7, verse 8 through 13, right? King David, God says to the prophet, you can read through it. God says to the prophet, no, David HaMelech, you're not going to build the Beis HaMikdash. The one who's going to build the Beis HaMikdash is going to be Shlomo HaMelech. is going to be King Solomon, because there's going to be peace in his time. You made peace in this time. You made the capability of peace in this time. But first, you need to go and you have done your job. But King Solomon, whose name Shlomo Melech is the concept of peace. Shlomo comes the same word as peace. Shlomo Melech, your son, is going to ultimately build the Beis Hamikdash. Now, you can read text number 4, and that continues. It says what Shlomo Melech did, King Solomon did. You can read those texts, text 16 through the text 20. Okay? Shlomo Melech, just to give you an understanding of the building of this Beis Hamikdash, the project was 30, King Solomon drafted 30,000 men to help him cut the wood in Lebanon. They served in shifts of 10,000 each. 80,000 men worked the hoeing of the stones, and 70,000 men transported the stones from the construction site to Yerushalayim. There were 3,300 supervisors. An unbelievable event, right? Craftsmen were brought from Tyre to help the project. The work, ship sails eastward and westwards, getting the finest materials. The work took 7 years for this to accomplish. My friends, if you look on the side of and if you look on your chart on page 70, you see the timeline, okay? You see the timeline. If you go to the 1313, right? 2,448 years of creation. The Jewish people left Egypt. In 2,449, the tabernacle that we read in this week's portion was erected. In 2,488, the Jewish people entered Israel. In 2,516, Joshua passed away. In 2,892, David became king. In 2,928, Solomon started to build the temple. In 2,935, the temple was built in Yerushalayim. 2,935. How many years is it between 2,449 and 2,935? Over 400 years, my friends. Over 400 years from the commandment, V'asu li migdash, v'shachanti b'seicham, you shall make for me a tabernacle. It took the Jews 440 years. Destroyed. Temple Mount is there. But it took 440 years for ultimately King Solomon to build his temple. I want you to imagine, right? The United States of America, how old are we? Like 1776. 200 plus years. Right? It was 200, only 200 years since 1776. When you realize the time, Washington, until today, is only halfway the history from what God asked the Jews to build, a Beis Hamikdash. No, still hope for us. That God asked the Jews in the year 2,449. 440 years later, in 2,935 of creation, the thing was accomplished. Long journey. Very long journey. Why did it have to take 440 years for a mitzvah, a verse in the Torah, to be accomplished. 440 years. After the wait, Moses didn't do it, and neither did Joshua do it. And we're talking about David didn't do it. Shlomo Melech, King Solomon. We're talking hundreds of years it took for ultimately. Why did it need to be done that way? Jews come into Israel. Okay, I understand that the desert, you needed to have a tabernacle. But the second the Jews came into Israel, even it took them 7 years to conquer it, they could have built the Mishkan. They could have went right away, conquered Jerusalem, built the Beis HaMikdash, and finished. Why did it need to wait 400 years for that to be accomplished?
They didn't put
temporaries. Again, temporaries. They knew that they were temporary. We're going to get to that in a minute. They knew they were temporaries. They made the tabernacle Noiv and Shiloh and etc. So they knew they were going to be, but they knew that were temporaries. They didn't build the Beis HaMikdash until David HaMelech, until King Solomon. Amazing thing. It's truly amazing. When they had a mitzvah in the Torah, God told them by Mount Sinai, when he gave the Torah, he told them, I want you to build me a Beis HaMikdash. I want you to build me a Beis HaMikdash. That was the command. Yasli Mikdash. You shall make me a tabernacle. You should make me a synagogue. You should make me a house of God. So what is over here? So it sounds like, so that's why the Gemara said, that's why we preface this with a Gemara. The Gemara says that there needs to be 3 things to be accomplished. 3 mitzvahs that need to be accomplished is making a king, making a king, getting rid of your enemies, and then building the Beis HaMikdash. And that's the answer. So whether it's the king first, or the Gemara says the king first, or getting rid of your enemies, we can argue about that. But surely these 3 things need to go together for some reason. These 3 things need to go together. The concept of establishing a king in the Jewish nation, the concept of eradicating Amalek, and the concept of the Beis HaMikdash need to come together. And that's why David HaMelech, who in essence accomplished, he was the first king of the Jewish nation, the whole Jewish nation, recognized by God, even though there was a king before him, Shaul. But David HaMelech was the one who united the Jewish nation under one banner, under one kingship. And he eradicated the nations, the 7 nations of Israel. And now he said, I want to build the Beis HaMikdash. And he even was not given that right to build the Beis HaMikdash, and it was given to Shlomo Melech, his son, who would ultimately build the Beis HaMikdash. Yes?
What is the source where it says it should no longer be a temporary, but be a permanent structure?
Va'asu li mikdash, and you shall make for me a sanctuary. Mikdash is not a mishkan. Mikdash is a place. A place. It's in the first sentence. Va'asu li mikdash. The tabernacle in the Beis HaMikdash is called a mishkan. Mishkan. I said we interchange between the mishkan and mikdash. But the Beis HaMikdash is the sanctuary that's on Temple Mount. It's called the Beis HaMikdash. This is called a mishkan. It's called a mishkan. A mishkan. A tabernacle. I don't know what the right. What's the meaning of the word tabernacle? Anybody know? Mishkan is a dwelling. A mishkan. Sheikhim, to dwell. But it's not a place, it's not a permanent situation. And the truth is, that's why you had a situation, even when the Jewish people came to land, and they made, you'll soon see in a moment, they built places, but those places are not holy anymore. The only place that stays holy is the Temple Mount, because that's where the Beis HaMikdash was built. Once it was a kavua, was set up that this is going to be the place that the Beis HaMikdash was going to be. That's why the Temple Mount is still holy today. Because that's where the Beis HaMikdash is, not where the Mishkan was. The Mishkan was at Shiloh. You can go today and you can visit Shiloh where they believe the Mishkan was. It's not a holy place. It's a place where the Mishkan stood, because it was temporary. Anything that's temporary doesn't establish a holiness forever. Something needs to become stationary, what to kavah, something that is there forever, built to be there forever. Yeah.
When I was a very little girl, I used to walk to Hebrew. And they were gonna build, then they.
What does that have to do with the class? I'm late.
Okay.
Google says a tabernacle is a
The
residence
final
or dwelling.
building, there were several buildings that we moved from. Buildings,
Right.
so,
Beautiful.
so what does that
Beautiful.
mean?
That's a state, that's a building, like the difference between a rent and buying a building. I was in a rental for 20 years.
Okay,
It's a rental is not a permanent situation. If you're here today, you can be gone tomorrow. A building you build is something that's a permanent situation. Is a temporary, is a permanent situation. Even this concept, that's why this becomes a permanent synagogue. That's, in a way, Corona, I don't want to get into that aspect, but Corona created a lot of temporary synagogues. Everybody has in the backyard, they made a synagogue. That's a temporary synagogue. You need to come back to a permanent place. This is a permanent place. A synagogue is a permanent place. And it's a big difference between a temporary situation and a permanent situation. And so too in the Beis Hamikdash, you had for hundreds of years, 440 years, temporary situations. It took for 440 years to ultimately come to a permanent situation. So what brought the permanence to the Beis Hamikdash? Two things: a king and the eradication of evil. Getting rid of Amalek, the eradication of evil. So let's understand why you need a king for. What is the purpose of a king? That's really the question, because the king is the one who needs to eradicate evil and to build the Beis Hamikdash, his job. So the king has two jobs: to eradicate evil and to build a Beis Hamikdash. So first we have to understand, what is the mitzvah to appoint the king? Is one of the mitzvahs of the Torah to appoint the king. Let's go to the verse in text number 5 on page 71. This is the mitzvah. When you come to the land of Israel, your God is giving you, and you possess it and live therein, and you say, I will set a king over myself like the nations around me. The verse 15 says, you shall set a king over you whom the Lord your God chooses. From amongst your brothers, you shall set a king over yourself. You shall not appoint a foreigner over yourself, one who's not from your brothers. That's the basic mitzvah. The mitzvah of having a king. I don't like kings. We like democracy. We like kings. But what is the meaning of the mitzvah? To have a king. To have a king. Because that's really based. It's a mitzvah of Torah to have a king. And we say, let's see. So Rav Aaron HaLevi of Barcelona, he wrote the famous book, Sefer HaChinuch. He lived in the 1200s. And he wrote the book Sefer HaChinuch. Sefer HaChinuch is really the book of education. And what he did was, he wrote a book of the 613 commandments. And he gave explanation to each commandment. It's a beautiful book. Today you can get it in English. Sefer HaChinuch, the book of the mitzvahs, written by this great sage. There's arguments. Not everybody agrees with him totally. But he's the only one who did this and wrote a book on every mitzvah and explained its source. It's tried to give its meaning, etc. So look how he explains the mitzvah of having a king. He says, it's only possible to sustain human civilization when the people select amongst themselves a leader, laws they will keep, and the decrees they will observe. Because it is the concept of your government. By definition, people are different minds, and it's impossible for them to all agree to one person's opinion of what ought to be done, leading to chaos and anarchy. Therefore, they must accept upon themselves the opinion of one person. This is a danger. This we don't like. This we don't like that much, for better or for worse. Okay, so that they succeed in creating a civilized society. Sometimes I'll find this counsel very worthwhile, and sometimes the opposite. But all this is better than a state of quarrel, which will abrogate everything. So we'll break up everything. So this is the way he explains the concept of kingship. You know, we don't like it. Humans like democracy. We like to vote in a person every, if he messes up, we'll vote him out, right? But the truth is we do that. I mean, basically we do this in a small way. We do it. We voted in a guy. Whether we like it or not, you're stuck with whatever, your congressman, senator, president, or whatever it might be. Even today, you vote in your judge, and now you're stuck with it. You're stuck with it for the time being. But I want you to imagine. Let's imagine, if you can have imagination, and if you would say, if there was a person, if there were, let's say hypothetical, there would be a person who was a pious individual, a holy person, a godly person, a good person, a caring person, a smart. Try to find a package. If I find you in a package, the guy who we can all agree on and say, wow, this is the guy that's not going to abuse power. He's humble. He's going to, but you know what? He is a guy we can follow. Will we agree that it would be better to have such a person? Could we agree to have such a person, or not?
You can't find them.
I said hypothetical. You heard my introduction? Okay, a hypothetical. If we would be able to find such a person. What?
Can I move there?
No, he's going to be here. Such a person that it will be that we will all acknowledge that he's a knowledgeable, unbelievable person. He has all talents. He is the guy.
I elect Rabbi.
No.
I move.
You second that nomination?
Second that.
No. How about the person? Fuck him. So if you have such a person, we can all agree. Can we all agree that it would be a positive thing? In that statement, if we just take that statement that Rabban Halevi, the Sefer Chinuch, and which he gives the meaning of the mitzvah, and we would say, you know what, we'll find a person like that, or there is a person like that. So we should, and that's why David HaMelech, if you learn the history of David HaMelech, you know that David HaMelech was loved by people. He was loved by people. He was not only a great warrior, and he was not only a great tzaddik and a great writer and a great sage and a navi on his own account. David HaMelech, the Gemara says, Ma'od ben Abris, he was loved by people. People Pashut loved him. And because he showed, David HaMelech was David Avdi, David HaMelech truly showed humility. So it's impossible to get everybody, that's life. It's impossible. Even Moshe Rabbeinu was loved by everybody, but not everybody. Even Mordechai, who saved the Jewish nation, was not loved by everybody. We're talking about a big percentage. Therefore, when Maimonides tries to express what a king is, and really we need to because we in our prayers we pray for this every day. I don't know if you know the Hebrew words, what you're saying, but when you're saying Shemoneh Esrei, you're asking for this. You're asking for this from God every day. So you have to know what you're asking for. Restore our judges, good. Lord, kind of, King, to establish. You see, it says, "Return mercy to Jerusalem, your city, and dwell therein. Your promise speedily established during the throne of your David, your servant." So we're asking back for kingship. We're asking back for that and rebuild it soon in our days. So we're asking back in the next verse, speedily cause the sin of your David, your servant, to flourish and increase his power by your salvation. So we're asking God for this. In our prayers, we're asking God for that. We're asking God for the return of, why? Because if we're asking God for the Beis HaMikdash, if we're asking God to rebuilding the third Beis HaMikdash, we need to have a king in Torah law. No. Could be. Maybe they're in the same. Maybe they are in the same, because David HaMelech is the Mashiach also needs to be from David. So actually, it's brought down that it is brought down that Mashiach will become the king. So we are looking for somebody. We're looking. The truth is, we are looking for kingship, my friends. Whether we are comfortable with it or not, we're looking for kingship. And the truth is, that's what the Rambam says. In all matters, the king's deed. We're looking for a king that the king deed shall be for the sake of heaven. An intent shall be to elevate the true faith and fill the world with justice, destroying the powers of wicked and waging the war for God. So the king, we're looking for a king. Think about it a second. The king that we always praise, because Moshe Rabbeinu also was similarly a king. Was also called a king. Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble person that ever lived. It calls him Moshe Abdi, Moshe my servant. David HaMelech, as I mentioned, was loved by everybody, and he's also called in the Torah, David Abdi, David my servant. Nobody gets such kind of titles so quickly as these two great people. And did everybody agree with him? No, you're not going to get a situation that every Jew is going to agree with everything that Moshe Rabbeinu did. We have Korach, we have those dissensions, Dasan Avinu, etc. So you have those challenges in life. But ultimately, David HaMelech, Moshe Rabbeinu was loved by everybody. Why? Because he was a king. They were kings, but they were humble. They were the servants of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So if you can imagine such a situation, that's what you're praying for. You're not looking for a king, a dictator. Suffered on the dictators, whether they were Jewish or not Jewish. So we're not looking for dictatorship. We're looking for somebody who's going to elevate us, who's going to inspire us. So that means the king is going to be a tzaddik. We're looking for a tzaddik. We're tzaddikim. Righteous people. With me.
Totally.
And that's why our sages say that when ultimately the Jews came to Shmuel HaNavi, Samuel the prophet, and they demanded a king, he was not happy. What do you mean? Why we're not happy? Isn't the Torah say you should have a king? Because they demanded it for the wrong reason. That's you see an improper request in text number 74. So it says, and the elders gathered and came to Samuel to Ramah, and they said to him, behold, you are grown old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now set up for us a king to judge us like all the nations. The things that displeased in the eyes of Samuel was that they said, give us a king to judge us. What do you mean judge us? The Abishah should judge you. You don't need a king to judge you. A king to elevate you. The Torah doesn't want to have dictatorship and kingship. The Torah wants to have the concept of a godly individual who'll judge you through his spirit. That's why it says when Mashiach comes, the Mashiach will not judge through his might. We're not looking for dictatorship. Ki beruchi. Mashiach is going to judge the world through his spirit. The world will recognize a godly individual. They'll respect a godly individual. Right now, there's no respect in the world. Why? Because we don't have, seemingly, somebody that the world can look up to. I'm not looking for a hero. And that's what he says, actually, when Mashiach comes, he's not going to make any miracles. Look at the Rambam. He's not going to make any miracles. It's not going to be like going out of Sinai, where, Moses had to make miracles and miracles. He's not going to, because he'll be recognizable.
We'll walk around with.
Yeah. He'll not only be a person, he'll be recognizable as a person, a special person, a godly individual. You won't have to go and start hitting people. I understand why even David Melech was a tzaddik, but God didn't want David Melech to be the one who builds the Beis Hamikdash, even though he was a righteous man and did exactly what the king wanted. But he was a koyach. He did things through might. He cleaned up Israel through the sword. And God said, you have too much blood in your hand. You might be a great man, but that's what I don't want. I don't want that this building, the Beis Hamikdash, should be built through the concept of might. I want through the concept of love. It's important. Mashiach comes through a democracy. You have the ultimate of democracy. The more, in a way, I want to turn something negative into positive, the more this world goes crazy in democracy, right? You can do whatever you want, wherever you want, whatever you want, be who you want to be what you want. It's your freedom. There's nobody can tell you anything. Not God, not man. It's all free. You be what you want. Is the true concept of Mashiach. Is really the true concept. Really, you can look at it in a negative way. Oh, we're going, people, yeah, this world's going to Sodom and Gomorrah, etc. Far from Sodom and Gomorrah. But we have total freedom. Total. You can tell me if I'm a man or a woman, I'll decide myself. Decide myself. I'm going to make my own decision. For that reason. Because he was a godly, loving individual. 100%. Everything you described. 100%. Because he changed the world. He did it in a loving way. And he continues to change the world in a loving way. Not in a threatening, powerful, aggressive kind of way. That's not Mashiach. It's not going to be an aggressive, powerful way. It's going to be the opposite. It's going to be in a loving way.
Why is
Because Mashiach's not here. We need Mashiach right now. So he needs to come back. He needs to come back. He needs to come back. She's not on. He needs to come back.
And he looks like the Rebbe's
He has a
picture.
beard, a long
Okay
beard,
by
and a
me.
picture.
So that was the problem. What were the Jewish people looking at the time of Samuel? They were looking for dictatorship. Some people have to be told what to do. Some people need to be told what to do. Because if not, they're going to be a much of them. So you need to have a strong hand. Some people need a strong hand. And they need to be threatened. And they need this guy up there that tells them how to live their life and how to work and how to walk around. Okay, that's a sad if you need such a situation. We're not looking for that. We're looking for David HaMelech and Shlomo HaMelech, ultimately Shlomo HaMelech, who stands for peace, who brought about peace in the world, and the whole world wanted to have a relationship with him. But David HaMelech, the whole world wanted a relationship because of David HaMelech, because his father showed the world, you better behave. So it came through that. But ultimately, David HaMelech came through the concept of peace. And therefore, if the Barbanel in text number 9 says, there are two possible kinds of kings. One is a king who submits to the authority of the Torah and the mitzvahs. The other one is the one who assumes absolute authority on his own. And that's why, power is corrupting and ultimate power is ultimate corruption. So if a king says, it's about me, my friend, you better run. But if a king says it's not about me, it's about the Eibishter, it has nothing to do about me. God, that's you might say, where do you find such a person? But we have to find such a person. There has to be Mitzvah, right? So on the other hand, assumes absolute authority on his own, making his own laws and doctrines with however he desires, like the kings of the nations of old. The first king of Israel is desirable concerning him. The Torah commands you shall set a king over you. He's commanded to follow the Torah mitzvahs. As the verse states, he shall write for himself 2 copies of this Torah, and he shall read it, so that his heart will not be haughty. The king needs to be humble for his brothers, so they will not turn away from the commandments, neither to the right or to the left. I have a king that's going to be a godly individual. The second king, which is most kings of the world, and there were many kings like that in the Jewish nation, sorry to say, causes great harm. With unlimited power, he will not protect true righteousness and justice, and who can tell him what to do? The Jewish people didn't ask for the first king. That was the problem by Samuel. They were looking for the second kind of king. He said, let us be like the nations of the world. Let our king judge us. In other words, a king with absolute power to make his laws as he sees fit. Like a Gentile, I don't want such a king. That was their mistake. We need a king that follows the Torah. The king that knows that he's there because the Torah wants him to be there. But we're not looking for leadership per se, like they say in the Lubavitch Rebbe. The Rebbe didn't want leaders, didn't want followers. He wanted leaders. You're looking for a leader who's going to create leaders. When like Moshe Rabbeinu, when Yeshua comes and tells him there's another prophet, there's other prophets that want to be prophets, what does he say? I wish every Jew is a prophet. I'm not looking to be the only prophet. Let every Rabbeinu.
Every Jew
should be prophets. I'm no better than anybody else. We're all prophets. We're all B'nai Malachim. We're all children of kings. We're all princes. And that's the beauty of what the king is going to bring. So therefore, ultimately, that's why these 3 things are interconnected. These 3 things are important. You understand why the Rambam and the Gemara says that how do you build the Beis Hamikdash is if you have a king that's going to elevate you and eradicate evil. Because he's going to elevate you, he'll eradicate evil. He went out to eradicate evil, even through wars. Shlomo Melech didn't eradicate evil through wars. No, he did it in a peaceful way. The nations of the world came to bow down to him. That's what's going to happen when Mashiach comes. As I said before, David says Mashiach's going to come. He's not going to change the world through power. He'll change the world through spirit. The world will come naturally to realize that this is the truth. They're not going to have to force people to believe in the truth. That's what the nations of the world still need to learn. They've learned to come a long way, forcing people to be in a religion. Even forcing their own people to be in that religion, right? If you don't be, I'll cut your head off. That's the way religions were, and it's a sad situation. They gave a bad name to God, gave a bad name to religion. But what's the religion that you're forced to be in? You can't get out of it, only by being dead. So the Rebbe says, no, I want you to love Yiddishkeit. Choose it. B'chayta b'chayim. Choose it. But sometimes it's hard for us to choose it. And that's why we need to be inspired. And that's the Melech we're looking. We're looking for the Melech who will inspire us. The Jew who will inspire us will say, wow, here's a human being like any one of us. And look at a godly individual. And that's why I can say by myself. In a way, I had the Lubavitch Rebbe who inspired me. He threatened me. I'm not a Lubavitcher under duress. Nobody threatened me. Nobody told me if you're not going to do this, you're gonna get your head chopped off.
Sure.
No. We became part of this whole process, Baruch Hashem, because we had a great love for it. Made love for it. That's how the Rebbe transformed the world, with love. Not only to transform the world, outside the world, he transformed his own chassidim with love. Everybody wanted to be. Thousands of people, thousands of couples and families gave up everything in their life to go and do something crazy. Totally out of the box, totally out of the comfort zone.
Have to look at the pictures that are.
That's the
and they're
power.
Trying to get
So that's the
closer and
power.
closer
So
and
that's the
closer.
power. So therefore, you have it. Therefore, and the truth is that you have to have this today. The mitzvah stands today. V'asul mikdash. These three mitzvahs of a same tasam alecha melech. You can talk about it in a practical. We need a Mashiach comes and clean up Eretz Yisrael and I'll get rid of all the enemies from Israel, and then he will establish the Beis Hamikdash, bring the Jewish nation together. That's in the simple way of a mitzvah. But now we can do the same thing today. The mitzvah still stands today. You read the Parhsa Trumah Mikdash. Every day you wake up in the morning. God says 3 things you need to do. You need to make a melech. Means you need to make a melech over yourself. If you learn Chassidus, a melech in Hebrew is mem, lamed, chaf. Right? Melech is men, lamed, chaf. You have it in the third word in text number 10. Mem, lamed, chaf is a melech. What does the mem, lamed, chaf stand for? Mayach, lev, and kavod. Your mind, your heart, and your liver. The liver, kavod is the liver. Is the processing, very important, processing your waste and your blood, right? The process is the blood that comes from your heart. You want to be a melech? You want to be a king? You need to have mind over your heart. Right? You want to be a king? You have to have mind over your heart. Right? We're learning that in Tanya these days, right? You need to use your mind, be a king. And that's the way you're going to eradicate evil from yourself. That's the way evil will, if I can have self-control, evil will dissipate. When I lose control, where evil has the capability of the capability of moving into me, the capability of ultimately even taking me over, because I made space. You have to be a king. Mind over matter. Yeah, be a king. No, that be a king. You could be a king. Everybody needs to be a melech. Everybody needs to be a king.
You have to be your own king.
King.
Your
own king.
Your own,
Own boss.
right.
Your own control of your destiny. Stop blaming everybody else. Stop thinking you are the power of your destiny.
You are.
That you are.
That's
What
And-
if people blame you?
What do I care if people blame me? I'm the king. Nobody cares. No, what do I care? I'm the king. So what do I care what people say? I'm the king. I am the king. When you're the king, right, I'm the king of Zalman Bucket. I'm my own king. What do I care what somebody else says? What do I care what people say? I'm my king. And I'm the boss of my existence. And the truth is, if I do something bad, I'm the one who did the bad. Blame it on anybody else. I'm my own king. If I do something good, I'm my king. I'm in control. You give up control, you're not a king. Now you're a wussy. You're not a king. You're basically a shmata. You want to be a shmata, you want to be used and abused. That's lacharaba. That's your choice. You can do that, you can allow that to happen. But a person needs to be a melech, to be a king over himself. And then, what does that mean? It means to have self-control. I do what I want to do. If I want to be happy now, I'll be happy. If I want to be sad now, I'll be sad. If I want to go to sleep now, I'll go to sleep. If I want to learn, I'll go to learn. I am my own destiny. I decide what I want to do.
What about buying shoes?
Or buy shoes. Text number 10. The commandment you shall make set a king over you is about awe. In spiritual terms, a king expresses a unique degree of fear of heaven. That's a true king. That's a true king. So a king means, what means a king? A king means that God gave me in this illustration of a Yid, of a Jew, what means a king? Be a king. Meaning, I have a godly world. I believe in God. You're right, my heart wants me to do everything else, but I know the truth. Is mind over matter. Right? We mentioned in the Tanya today. There's a surah and don't follow what you see. Don't follow what heart desires. Right? Because then you're a king. If you follow what your heart desires, then basically you're giving yourself over to what you see or what you feel. Don't do that. Be a melech, be a king, be a melech. Put yourself higher, right? I always say this. My father, his root to me was always it's pasnish. It's unbecoming. Becoming. How is it becoming for a person like you to do something that's bad? It's unbecoming. If it was another person, maybe it's becoming. But a person that has a brain in his head, that thinks a second, and can have self-control, that's becoming. It's unbecoming. That's the way it needs to. That's a melech. A melech has self-control. Becoming.
In the
Rabbi, can I ask you a question?
I don't know. We have a state. Somebody's saying something.
what you learned from us.
Can I ask a question, Rabbi?
Somebody's saying something here. I know you kind of hear.
You
Oh, no, we can't hear it. No, we can't. Sorry.
have to be set aside. You
Second,
have to
one
master
second.
yourself. You are
Thank you.
king over your actions.
Correct. Jenny, what's your question?
Well,
Jenny,
actually, I
what's
have two questions.
Yes.
One question is, and if it's not relevant, then just, you don't have to answer it. But,
Okay.
so there's two questions. I'll just say them both. One is how does the liver figure into this? And that's not the one that I think might not be relevant. The other one is it says today, because we don't have a base of Mikdash, that our table is supposed to be like korbanos and all of that. Like, so we're supposed to be our own base of Mikdash, I guess, and we're supposed to use our eating for korbanos, and I've never completely understood what it means about the eating part.
Okay. So I'll answer you both questions. First of all, covered, I said, is the refining process of the liver, of the heart, the blood of the heart. So that shows in the concept of the way you understand things. The refining process is the way you understand things. So it's important the way you and everything. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, everything is the way a person understands it, and therefore it's important that you refine your understanding of things. You have to refine your understanding. Work, and that's where Chachma and Bina come together. Wisdom and understanding come together. If you separate, that's why in Kabbalah, wisdom and understanding are two entities that always need to be together. Wisdom is a concept of godliness, because wisdom is above oneself. Understanding is oneself. If you separate that, it's going to be a disaster. Always need to keep these two entities together. That means that in my understanding, I understand that there's higher. It's more spiritual than even what I understand. It's more godly. There's more wisdom even than what I understand. And that will keep the understanding to continue to grow. And that's what's important. Mayach, your wisdom should overextend, should always be on top and be part of your understanding and of your emotions. That's number one. Number two is the shulchan. You're correct. It's brought down that the food that I eat, and Chassidus also answers that because the food is the ultimate. That is symbolic of true sustenance. We cannot live without food. Those are the basic components that we need. We can see God in the food that we eat. We have accomplished something. And the truth is that Eibishter wanted that in the Beis Hamikdash, a person should bring a korban, which is an animal. The prophet says, God says, I need your bullocks, I need your sheep. What, are you serious? What am I gaining out of this whole thing? the point of bringing a carbon, an animal, because that was the most basic commodity and physicality in their lives. And when they brought it as a sacrifice, they showed that they took the basic commodity and they said, no, that this is not the bait, this is not the simple. This can also be used in the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Then you accomplish the Beis HaMikdash. Then you accomplish what the Beis HaMikdash wanted to accomplish. And that's why the Eibusha says that ultimately they lost it, because it became just a butcher shop. I don't need a butcher shop. I don't need behemoths. I don't need animals. I don't gain anything from these animals. It's what you gain. And if you don't gain, there's no need for it. So the Eibusha says, in your shulchan, when you sit down at a table and you're eating, everybody says, wait a minute, I gotta eat. Everybody's gotta eat. No, I gotta say a word of Torah. I came to the table to say a word of Torah. Then you have accomplished why you came to the real reason why you came to the table. It's to say some words of knowledge. So the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, whoever comes to a table and doesn't say words of Torah, they're eating dead food, eating dead animals. If you say words of Torah, you bring purpose to why you're sitting at the table. Now you have elevated everything. You have elevated your table. You have elevated the food. You have elevated yourself. You have elevated the world. And that's the real purpose of it. Truth is, this concept is also the same thing. See, by Jews, by Yidden, the king can have two entities himself. He's a ruler, and he has to take care of situations in the world. That's his business. He's taking care of enemies, making sure there's security. And how does the Beis HaMikdash get in the middle over here? What's my job? Let the rabbis do the Beis HaMikdash. What do I got to do? I'm the king. I have to make sure that the garbage is collected and the police are doing the job, and that we have a strong army. What am I dealing with the Beis HaMikdash? Let the Kohen Gadol take care of the Beis HaMikdash. Let the Rabban, let the Sanhedrin take care of the Beis HaMikdash. It's not my job, but it is the job, because the Eibusha wanted a king that will be a godly individual, and not only will he take care of spiritual things to make sure that they're godly and they are pure, but even mundane things will be pure. So he built the Beis HaMikdash, which is a building that was built, a regular building that was built in the midst of the Yidden and brought about a godly existence. And that's why it's all in the one thing. It's all in one. They're all one entity. And the truth is, we have to look at life also in that way. If I want to build a beautiful home, even my own home, I want to make it not just a nice home and a safe home, an alarm system, a safe home, and a happy home. No, there needs to be a godly home. You need to have all three parts of it. You need to bring them all thing together. It's all one. You got the point. You got the point. So that's the beauty.
Yes, but can I just clarify one other thing that you said that I a little bit struggle with? So it's just a language. I think it's a language problem between English and Hebrew. But when we talk about, so in English, like one of the things that seems to be important is to be able to connect to your intuition and to your authentic feelings, and how do you really feel about something, and to use your intuition. And where does that fall in with the idea of your because then it's sort of like when you say your head is supposed to rule over your emotions. I don't know where it falls in there. Like, I don't know how to.
What fills in? I'm lost. Where what fills in?
When you're using, like when I'm in a place where I feel connected to Hashem, I'm using my intuition, and I'm not like sitting around analyzing, thinking everything out. I'm using my intuition. Oh, I'm upset about something. So, okay, you shouldn't be upset, but that doesn't really help me. You shouldn't be upset. Oh, God said you shouldn't be upset. What helps me more is when I use my intuition. And where is intuition in the whole scheme of feelings and emotions and mind.
Your
and
heart,
co-op.
your intuition, your heart. Mayach lev, your heart. Doesn't say you shouldn't have a heart. You should have intuition. You should be able to connect your intuition to your mind. You're not losing the intuition. You have every person has their own feelings and has their attitudes and has the way they think and the way they feel. Every person is separate. And the chachma is to take my intuition and connect it to a higher plane and elevate it to a higher plane. And not to lose your intuition, not to lose your identity, but to use your identity and connect it to a higher plane. If you can do that, and the Torah says you could do that. It takes a lot of effort. You saw in Tanya today, the Alter Rebbe says this takes a lot of effort. It's not an easy fix. And the truth is, that's what I don't want to finish this off. The Rebbe says that's why it took 400 years. It's not an easy fix. 400 years. It's not, it took one day. For the Jewish nation to come to this level of Shlomo Melech took 400 years.
Okay.
It didn't happen in 5 minutes. Didn't. When the Eibishter gave the Jews people a Torah and he wanted to accomplish everything in a moment, you saw what happened. It doesn't happen this in a moment. It took the Yidden 400 years. And there are 5 stages that it went through for ultimately to have the Beis Hamikdash. So too, I'm not saying it should take 400 years because we don't live 400 years, but it takes time. It takes time for ultimately to integrate this whole concept that all these entities should come together as one. Takes time. And you have to give it time. It takes learning, it takes effort, it takes involvement, it takes a lot of work. But you can't give up the work. You can't give up the job. And you have to, every Jew, every one of us needs to get to work. And get to work. Start working on my Avodah. Start working on this integration. Figure out a way to do it. The Eibishter gave you the tools, you have to be able to accomplish it.
Oh, may I ask you something?
Yeah, sure.
What does terumah means? Terumah, the name of the parasha, what does it mean?
Terumah means a offering.
A what?
Offering.
Offering. Oh, thank you.
Let's go to text 11. I want to finish this off because I'm late. The 3 mitzvahs, as Rashi says, depends one on another. Therefore, the Rebbe says they're all independent. In other words, although there are 3 separate mitzvahs, each one of them also contributes to the complete picture of the other 2. The mitzvah of appointing king is fully achieved when the mitzvah of destroying the offspring of Amalek and the building of a permanent temple are completed. Similarly, with regard to the others, the complete picture of the mitzvah to build a temple is connected with the fulfillment of the mitzvah of appointing a king and destroying Amalek. They cannot be separated. We need to have, if you understand this concept, that the Eibishter wanted to bring about a unity in the world, between the world and him, that takes 3 concepts. Number 1 is a melech, the connection, the inspiration. Number 2 is the ultimate dismantling of evil. And number 3 is the connection, the Beis Hamikdash, the Mikdash. So therefore, in text number 12, you see, after the Jews entered the land of Israel, they erected a sanctuary in Gilgal. So for 40 years, they had a Mishkan. They had a Mishkan. For 40 years, a Mishkan. Then they entered and they built a sanctuary in Gilgal during the 14 years in which they conquered and divided the land. That was the time of Yeshua. So Moshe Rabbeinu was the 40 years in the desert. Then Yeshua was the 14 years in Gilgal. From there they came to Shiloh, built the house of stone. Now they went to another level and spread curtains of the sanctuary over it. So now they went to the second level, the third level, I mean. And it didn't have a roof. The sanctuary of Shiloh stood for 369 years. And Eli was the priest, died. He was the last priest in the Shiloh. This is already coming closer to Shmuel Hanavi, right? Coming very close to Shmuel Hanavi. Because Shmuel Hanavi, Samuel the prophet, was in the time of Eli. He was the one who was in the temple there. His mother brought him to the temple. The high priest died, it was destroyed. Afterwards, it came to Nov, and they built a sanctuary. When Shmuel died, it was destroyed. And then they came to Givon, and they built a sanctuary. From Givon, they came to the eternal structure. There were 5 different steps. The days of the sanctuary Nov were 57 years. Those 2 times were altogether 57 years. This was a journey, the journey of the tabernacle, the journey of the temporary dwelling of God. Took 440 years, 5 different steps, stage after stage. And the Rebbe says in text number 13, he says, the sanctuary that Moshe made, having built in the desert and transferred from place to place, was temporary sanctuary, a tent of meeting. It's called a tent. This form of sanctuary continued after the people entered the land, so long as they lived there in a transient manner. Meaning, for 14 years that they conquered and divided the land. Next from there went to Shiloh, where the Jewish people were more settled in the land. Having already conquered and divided it, they built the house of stone. No longer was it temporary tent anymore. It was until that point, but rather a long-standing one. It stood there for 369 years. But the Jews, if you know the history of the Jewish people in the land at that time, was still not settled. Still had problems with the nations that lived there. But still, when Eli died, it was destroyed. And they came to Nov, and they built a sanctuary there. And when Shmuel died, it was destroyed, and they came to Givon. And the days of Nov give 57 years, because the people hadn't yet achieved true peace. 140 years, they haven't achieved true peace. Only happened when they came to Givon, to the eternal temple. It's because of the time that the real king of David and Solomon also had achieved true peace from the war against Amalek. And that is when ultimately the 3 things came together. The king, the destruction of evil, the connection of that to make it a permanent situation. Can we have this concept? These 3 things come together. The truth is, we're back to that journey again, because the Beis Hamikdash was ultimately destroyed, stood for 400 years, 410 years, and then was destroyed. It was 400 years, the second Beis Hamikdash, 420 years, it was destroyed, and we're still, but the holiness of the place never moves from there, because that was not temporary, that was a everlasting, that was a permanent situation. And that's where we're journeying back. We're ultimately journeying back, and we need to accomplish these 3 things. To have a melech, which is the concept of to have a spiritual guide, a spiritual compass, to have wisdom, a spiritual compass, to eradicate evil, and to ultimately build the Beis Hamikdash and Heira B'Yameinu Mamish speedily in our days. Beautiful sicha. I wish you all a great day. I want to invite everybody tonight, either on Zoom or at Chabad at 7:30. We're having the first class JLI, the first JLI class, which is called Meditation of Sinai. And it's going to be at 7:30 tonight. Everybody's welcome to first class. I'm giving for free. You don't have to sign up. Just come. Always make it cheaper. If you can't afford it, just tell us and we'll be cheaper. We'll make it cheaper for you.
We'll pay you to come.
As I say, I don't like to charge for classes, but the JLI forces us to charge for these classes. And but so therefore, if you can't afford it, you always can come forward, and we will gladly help you out on this, because learning should not be something that you cannot afford. Learning should be available and open to everybody. So tonight at 7:30, you're welcome to come learn the class. Hopefully you'll sign up for the 6-week course. And can't afford it, don't worry. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid to say I can't afford it. We'll gladly give you a discount, a big discount. Have a wonderful and beautiful day, everybody.
May God make the stock market go up. I
Amen.
don't have the money.
Have a great day, guys.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, guys. See you later tonight, 7:30. Phenomenal class.